Hello folks, this is Darkest Lion and welcome back to my channel. Today what I have here is quite an exciting video for you all. In this video, I'm going to be showing you a quick guide on how to run Assassin's Creed Valhalla with best possible performance on your system. So how are we going to achieve that best possible performance in a system? So we're going to do it with two steps. One is by optimizing the in-game graphics settings, which is going to come later. But first, what we're going to do right now is overclock our GPU, our graphic card. And how am I going to do it is by using MSI Afterburner. And MSI Afterburner is basically pretty much the base standard for overclocking any GPU. And it's free download available at MSI's official website. You can just go ahead and download it. After you download it, it's going to ask you to restart the system after the installation is complete. So once you have rebooted the system, just go ahead and turn on the application and it's gonna look somewhat like this. And if you have a different scheme or a different theme setting, do not worry, sometimes that happens. The base software is still the same. So primarily what you're gonna do here is go towards settings. We have a lot of other tweaking options here, but for now we're going to just ignore that. Go towards general and select your master graphics processor. That is basically your dedicated GPU. You have to select that. I have that GeForce GTX 1650 Ti. It's 4 gigabytes of DDR6 VRAM. Now, then what we're going to do here is go to compatibility properties and go ahead and checklist all of that. Restore settings after suspended mode is basically your preference. If you want to keep it, it's also all right. If you don't want to keep it, it's also all right. But make sure you have other settings as checked on. Then go ahead and click apply and OK. Now, after applying and okaying there, I think there's a possibility that it might ask you to restart the application or reboot your system. It didn't ask for me because I have already applied those beforehand. So if it asks you, just do not worry and go ahead and reboot your system or application, whatever it is asking. So after you have restarted your system and application, now we'll begin the overclocking bit. So what are we going to do here is, you can see this icon here, OC, just go ahead and click there and then go ahead and click on scan. So there are basically two methods by which you can overclock. One is by automatically scanning the system and choosing so that letting the system decide what is the best and optimal overclock settings for your PC. But to be honest, I'm not comfortable with that, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try the manual method. But if you're not comfortable with the manual method, you want complete reliability, you can go ahead and put the scan here, click on scan button here. It's going to take around 20-25 minutes to complete it. And after you've completed the scan, automatically the core clock setting here is going to come as curve. That means the system has already defined the curve by which the clock changes, and it has automatically applied an optimal overclock settings based on the system. So, but I'm not going to do that. But if you wish, if you're comfortable with it, you can go ahead and do that. But what I'm going to try is the manual method. So how I'm going to do manual method is, you can start the core clock here. I know it goes up to till the max, but do not go till the max settings or your system will crash. Click set the core clock as 100 and memory clock as around 200, and then test it out bit by bit whether your system is running stable and your games are running stable or not. So the max settings which I found optimal for my graphic card, that is the my laptop GPU, that is 1650 Ti, was 175, because as I was going above 200 or 190 or 200, I found some artifacts in the game and the system was a bit jaggedy. So I'm just keeping the core clock till 175, and the memory clock I can boost it up all the way till 600. So what happens in memory clock is we get a bit of an extra leg room to work around, but still you cannot. In this also, you cannot just max it out till there. You just cannot do that. Your system will crash. So again, in this, I will recommend If you have a different GPU than this one, what you can do is you can start out with core clock as 100 and memory clock as 200, and then push forward bit by bit by changing, then going to 125, 150, 170, like that. Bit by bit you can progress further your core clock and memory clock and see what is the best possible settings in which your system is running very stable and the games are running very stable and not crashing at all. So for my GPU, I found 175 core clock and memory clock as 600 to be running very stable without any issue of thermal throttling or overheating at all. So if you have the same GPU, you can just go ahead and apply these settings. I go ahead and apply that. And you might also want to save the profile which you have saved this by clicking this icon, and let's save here. And basically our overclocking is done. So if you have the same GPU, as I said, you can go ahead and apply these settings. If not, you can try trial and error method by bit testing what settings work the best for your system and without causing any game crashes or instability. So this works best for me. You can go ahead and test out different settings and see what works best for you. Okay, so now for this is basically our overclocking is done. Now what we have to do next is, if you have an NVIDIA GPU, go ahead and open NVIDIA control panel. And then here what you have to go here is go to adjust image settings with preview. Here you can see the slider here. You can either choose it for best performance or best quality. So I'll tell you what it is. If you prefer best quality, it's gonna be costing a bit of the performance. I do not know exactly how much it's gonna cost, but it is gonna cost somewhat of an performance. So if you have a low-end GPU, or if you want those extra FPS, you can always go ahead and set it to performance. Although the catch is, if you set it to complete performance, the edges are going to appear a slight jaggedy. It's going to be completely smooth. So that's the reason I've kept it as quality. If you want, you can go ahead and keep this performance completely based on your preference. Then next, go to configure surround and physics. Here what happens in the most of the time is the physics settings is either auto selected or it's CPU, which are both not appropriate. So what are you going to do here is you have to select your dedicated GPU for physics settings and go ahead and click apply. And in manage 3D settings, you have to see for basically three things. Ignore the other settings. If you want more performance, you can always keep the anti-stropic filtering and anti-aliasing mode to off or at low settings. If you want better performance, completely your preference. And here, the power management mode, here always keep it maximum performance. Since it's a laptop, it's optimal to keep it always at maximum performance, otherwise it's gonna clamp. Then go to texture filtering and always keep it as high performance. Okay, and also check that threaded optimization is on or not. So what basically this does is it's take advantage of multi-threaded CPUs for getting the better performance. And since nowadays almost all CPUs are multi-threaded, so it's better to keep them all the time. Okay, after changing the settings, go ahead and click apply and close. Now that we are done with the NVIDIA control panel, and before we begin and tweak towards in-game optimization settings, there's a key thing which I want to say before. First, let's check out the system profiles. Nowadays, almost every gaming laptops have these inbuilt profile set for their performance modes. There's a silent mode, there's a performance mode, and there's a turbo mode. So what you need to be doing is, if you have a gaming laptop, always have these on turbo mode or the max setting mode, whatever it is, where the fan runs at the max speed. I know it's going to be a bit loud, but you need that extra fan speed to keep your system from thermal throttling or overheating. And especially it is a complete mandatory when you're overclocking your system and or running a game. So now that is out of the order. And one more thing, if you do not have a gaming laptop and if you do not have these certain preset profiles in your system, do not worry, just simply go towards this battery options and go towards the power options, and just make sure that your laptop is running on high performance profile before you start the game. Now then that is out of the way, I think we are good to go. Let's head towards in-game settings and tweak them up. If you're running the game on a smaller screen, or in your if you're playing it on laptop screen, I would recommend taking the resolution to 900 pixels, 900p, or taking the resolution scale from at 1080p from 100% to 90%. You can tweak around in that to get the most optimal performance boost. Since I have applied the overclocking settings, I'm gonna go ahead and be a bit more greedy, and what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna keep almost all settings as high, anti-aliasing high, and I've gone a bit of greedy here, and I've kept shadows and volumetric clouds as very high, water again as medium, screen space reflections I've kept it on, environment texture I've kept it as medium, because if you kept it high, that is the only maximum setting, high or medium, high goes beyond 4GB and it's going to cause a stuttering and issue with our system. So we're just going to avoid that at all cost and not keep it on high. And for textures, I've kept it high because I want those chirpy, extra crispy textures. And then again, depth of the field and motion blur is on. So let's go ahead and check out how it's performing. Wow, this is like, wow, I did not expected this. I honestly did not expected this much of a performance boost right here. This is like completely unexpected. If you guys have seen my previous video where I did benchmark on with my GPU, it's on a base clock with 8 GB of RAM. The game was performing abysmal, like it was stuttering a hell of a lot, and not only stuttering, the graphic performance was quite solid. It was running quite abysmal. But now, after made the RAM as a dual channel, and now that I've applied the overclock settings and the tweaking which I've done, the performance it's quite unexpected. It's literally, I wasn't expecting this much of a performance, to be honest. I know the FPS is running around 45 to 55, but to be honest, the dip is significantly much lower, and it's performing quite well. And I actually do not mind 45 to 55 FPS, but if you must, if you want that 60 plus FPS, or if you have to have that 60 FPS experience, what you can do is you can go ahead and tweak with environmental details and clutter details. That will basically help you up, and also you can turn off space-time reflection, as it also takes a bit of performance hit when it's turned on, or you can tweak with resolution and resolution scale.